When we first started out, I told Raquel the one cardinal rule of this nasty business we call show. There are 3 T's in entertainment: talent, teeth, and tits. Now, Raquel's only 6, so she's only fully developed in the talent department. But she's doing her best with the rest. Now, I don't want to overstate my case here, nor do I want to whine, but it must be said, it's not easy being a single mother. I mean, especially at my age. I was 19 when I had her. I've no family to speak of to lend a hand in raising her. And as far as being a single mommy, the gentleman in question seemed to think of his role largely in terms of anonymous sperm donation. The silence from that man is deafening, and to be fair, I'm not sure where he is. But what it comes down to is money, right? Drew Barrymore, Lindsay Lohan, Miley Cyrus. All child stars who entered the world of entertainment early and effectively gave their consent to a life no child should have to endure. Stephanie is an abusive mother, bound and determined to climb the showbiz ladder on the back of her 6-year-old daughter, Raquel. It seems Stephanie is the one who's willing to sacrifice everything. Can a child ever give their consent to be judged and treated as an adult? Age of Consent by Peter Morse. With some proper discipline and training, I could put Raquel's natural maturity and outgoingness to good use. So I made the decision. I quit my job to focus on Raquel's career. Although, as her agent and manager, it must be said, I'll always be working harder than she does. But you have no idea how energized I am. I am completely happy spending my days teaching Raquel to sing and dance. I finally feel like a mother. With only minimum coaching for me, she's a natural. Raquel got casted as the littlest darling sibling in Peter Pan. A chill went over me as I stood in the wings. Raquel waited to enter. I didn't even smile as I leaned down and whispered, T&T, Raquel. She looks up at me and whispers, teeth and tits, Mom, teeth and tits. And so she grins and thrusts and enters. And all eyes are on her. Princess Raquel and I are currently not speaking. She'll come around. Anticipating their misbehavior is part of the training, so that way when it does occur, you just starve them into submission. I don't know what Princess R had to eat today, but there's no food in the house. I don't feel guilty. Give that girl an inch and she takes a mile. You could say she's spoiled, but if I have spoiled her, it's only because it's part of the training. See, I take Raquel to these places that are too la-di-da for us, so that way she acquires a taste for it, so that then she has to work harder for the rest of her life to satisfy that craving. She'll be a much more eager performer if she has to sing for her supper, essentially. But she's been so gloomy lately. I'd suspect it's overwork, only I maintain a far more punishing schedule than she does. I'm the one who's responsible for every appointment, every meet and greet, every audition that she ruins for us. We get into these little standoffs and it just feeds on itself and gets worse and worse. Like today. Today was unforgivable, really. I took her in for our first audition of the day and she was already in a bad mood, and then she just ruined it. They're changing casts, right? And Les Mis, and you have no idea how hard I fought to get the audition. I coached Raquel into perfect poignancy and everything, and she just ruined it. I mean, you know the show, and I told her, I said, Raquel, I want you to make them weep. I don't want there to be a dry seat in that audience when you're through. And I gave her a Chinese bird and I pushed her on stage and she was spellbinding. Little hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and I realized Raquel does honestly have what it takes. Until the last verse, when she actually started to cry, and it was a nice effect. But then she just stopped singing and started crying, "Mommy, Mommy." Just evaporated. That magic. It's clear she's not a pro. She's only 6, but if she can't do it now, when is she going to do it? That's what enrages me. Here she is, singing that song like the world is going to end, and then she starts crying for her mommy. Raquel ruined it for herself. I pulled her aside and I said, "Raquel, I can't have you calling me mommy in front of all these professionals. Stop letting me down, and maybe I'll want to be your mommy, you spiteful little bitch." And she says, "Fine, I don't want to call you mommy anymore." So I slapped her across the face and she fell over. She didn't even cry. I mean, I am proving she has nerves of steel. She didn't even bat an eyelid, and the only thing that runs through my mind is she doesn't have hormones in her yet. She's only 6. Can you believe it? And her latest technique for domestic terrorism? Wetting the bed. It's absolutely foul. It's an ingratitude is what it is. So I've simply decided to stop changing the sheets. As far as I'm concerned, little girls have made their bed to lie in. For the first time, I'm thinking it might be possible. Our dreams might finally become a reality. Raquel and I have learned that there is a God, and his name is Desmond Varadi. We were sitting in a park when a distinguished older man came strolling up and started looking at Raquel. And she didn't even look her best. Now that's star quality. He says, "Madam, you have a beautiful daughter." And he reaches into the pocket of his business suit and extracts a card. Desmond Varadi, director, film and television. And I'm thinking, this might be the answer to our prayers. And before I even know it, he's casted Raquel as a featured role in a commercial. And Mr. Varadi was so attentive to Raquel. And the money, let's just say the contract was very, very generous. The first time we walked into the studio, I had to fill out a whole sheaf of forms until I got a page that said consent, as in parental consent. Imagine raising your child so well that they finally start becoming what you've always wanted. Imagine raising your child so well that they respond to your demands before you even make them. I had been so angry with Raquel with the talking back and the pissing, but now she's like a perfect dream of obedience. The next time we went to film a commercial, she didn't say a word apart from her lines. It's like she finally understood what I always wanted. Mr. Varadi, well, he's perfectly enchanted with his little leading lady. He said, "You realize I intend to keep using your daughter indefinitely, provided she and I maintain the proper working relationship she and I now enjoy." So when we got home, I sat her down and I said, "Raquel, I know you get it in your head to be Little Miss Contrary, but don't you dare. Mr. Varadi can make us rich. So he tells you to jump, you say, 'How high?'" She didn't say a word, didn't even nod, but I knew she understood. We later filmed in Tuscany. They even flew me out. Raquel flew business class with Desmond and I sat in economy, but it's all right. We were waiting on the terrace while Raquel took a bit too long in the bath. Thinks she's a star now. I said to Desmond, "This is a country for romance. A passionate man like you, I know you feel it." And he said, "Passion is the air I breathe." And Raquel turned up and started looking at us that same way she has been these past few days, kind of accusatory, popping her eyes out at you. That morning they decided not to film for some reason. Desmond turned up with a little picnic basket in hand and said, "Where's Raquel?" She was hiding under the bed, so we fetched her out, and he said, "Little lady, I've come to invite you to a picnic." She seemed a bit reluctant, and off they went. I watched them walk down to his car, her with her little hand reaching up to clench his pinky finger, and I realized he's done so much. I know I'll never be able to forget this man, and Raquel won't either. As for now, you have no idea how nice it is